How NASA's Artemis program plans to return astronauts to the moon. In just the next few years, NASA aims to land the first astronauts on the moon since 1972, including the first woman to voyage to the lunar surface. Following in the footsteps of the Apollo program, this 21st-century lunar campaign, called Artemis, could return humans to the moon's surface as soon as 2025. Named after the Greek goddess of the moon, the Artemis program was created to fly repeated trips to the moon so that NASA and its partner space agencies can establish a new foothold off-world. NASA officials also hope that Artemis will serve as the first step toward even greater ambitions in space, such as establishing a regular lunar presence and venturing all the way to Mars. The path back to the moon is a complex one with many remaining challenges, but extraordinary opportunities for exploration as well. Here's the plan to land back on the lunar surface, the technology required to complete such a mission, and what we know about who may be selected to make the lunar odyssey. What spacecraft are used in the Artemis program? During their missions, the Artemis crews will live aboard Orion, a capsule designed to keep a crew of 4 alive and healthy in deep space for up to 21 days. Each Orion capsule will fly with a European service module provided by the European Space Agency that will carry solar panels, life support systems, fuel tanks, and the main engine needed to enter lunar orbit. Orion's ride to the moon is the Space Launch System, or SLS. A 322-foot tall rocket with a core stage that burns a mix of liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen. The jumbo rocket's first stage uses 4 RS-25 rocket engines, originally developed for the Space Shuttle program. Artemis I, an uncrewed test flight to the moon and back, will use refurbished engines that have each flown on at least 3 Space Shuttle missions. Each SLS rocket will also use 2 massive solid fuel boosters attached on either side of the core stage. Combined, the rocket will generate 8.8 million pounds of thrust at launch, 15% more than the Apollo program's Saturn V. The rocket's upper stage will detach from the core stage once it reaches space and fire its own engines to send Orion, with the European service module, on its way moonward. Orion can't land on the moon itself, so when NASA makes its lunar landing attempt during Artemis III, it will transfer the crew from Orion to a modified version of SpaceX's Starship spacecraft while in lunar orbit. Starship, which SpaceX is currently testing, will then ferry the astronauts to and from the lunar surface. Once Orion returns to Earth, the gumdrop-shaped capsule will use its heat shields to survive the blazing descent through Earth's atmosphere and then deploy parachutes for an ocean splashdown. What are the first missions of the Artemis program? The first mission, called Artemis I, is an uncrewed test launch that will fly as soon as November 16, with backup dates on November 19 and 25. Artemis I will be the first uncrewed flight test of the whole vehicle stack. Orion, the European service module, and the SLS rocket. The only piece that has flown in space before is Orion, which launched on another rocket in December 2014 to test its heat shields. This first mission will last 4 to 6 weeks, depending on when it launches, taking Orion into orbit around the moon and then back to Earth. We're learning through the challenges, the accomplishments. Artemis I shows that we can do big things, things that unite people, things that benefit humanity, things like Apollo that inspire the world, NASA Administrator Bill Nelson said in an August 3 media briefing. This is now the Artemis generation. Artemis II, slated for no sooner than May 2024, will be the program's first crewed flight. During this 10-day mission, a crew of 4 will fly by the moon aboard Orion and then return to Earth. The mission resembles the December 1968 flight of Apollo 8. Artemis III, the mission meant to return people to the lunar surface, will launch no sooner than 2025. This 4-astronaut mission will begin much like Artemis II, but when Orion reaches the moon, it will dock with a waiting Starship vehicle from SpaceX. 2 members of the crew will then use Starship to land on the moon's surface near the lunar South Pole. Those astronauts will spend about 6.5 days exploring and doing research, and then Starship will ferry the crew back to lunar orbit, where the astronauts will return to Orion and head back to Earth. Thank you very much for watching our video. If you like it, give it like, and if you want more interesting videos like this, don't hesitate to subscribe our channel and hit the bell icon.